My name is Liz Miller and I'm the Foundation Stage Phase Leader at Dubai English Speaking School. I've been there for 8 years and I've been in the role for 8 years and it's an exciting place to be. I'd just like to introduce as well Tony Clarkson. Tony Clarkson is one of our assistant head teachers from DES, and he, in his role as assistant head teacher, also oversees the early years. Okay. Just want to start by talking a little bit about the theme for this morning. We've done a lot of work in DES over the last few years to develop an irresistible curriculum for all of our children, right the way through from FS1 to Year 6. And what I'm going to talk about this morning is how we've done that in FS1 and in FS2. I put these photos on the first slide because they're some of my favourite pictures. This one in particular, I think, is my favourite photo of all time since I've started teaching. This little boy was dressed up as a superhero. You can't actually see his costume there. And in his learning, he decided to make his own superhero powers machine. I think it was going to make him fly. And you can see he got into it. And it was just such a gorgeous moment as part of a child-initiated role play with the children. So I'm going to start off by showing a little video in a moment. At DES we follow the EYFS Development Matters document that I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with, document from the UK. So actually our curriculum and what we're following is probably pretty much the same as most early years providers in Dubai and in the UK. What we like to think is that the way we're delivering it is maybe a little bit different. Okay, so I'm going to show a video. The video isn't intended to be any kind of promotional video. It's purely to give you a flavour of how we work at DES and what our FS1 and FS2 unit looks like, just so that as I'm talking through the presentation, you've got something to refer back to. Okay, has anybody got any comments, anything they wanted to ask about from the video? So I'll move on. While I'm talking, if anybody does want to interrupt me and ask me any questions, please feel free. Just want to give you a little bit of a background as to the journey that we've been on at DES. I'll go through this quite quickly. In February 2012, we were lucky enough to have Jeanette Basson visiting us. Jeanette might be a name that you're familiar with. She's an early years advisor in the UK, and we were lucky to have her coming over and working with us for a week. Before she came, it was very much lots of tables and chairs in our FS2 unit, very traditional, lots of very formal teaching. Play was being used very much as a reward for when you finished your work. And it was a very different approach to the approach that we have now. Within the space of a week, we were very brave, and within the space of a week, we made quite dramatic changes and quite radical changes. We totally overhauled the existing timetable that we had. We introduced a new play-based curriculum that was based on planning, doing, and reviewing. We removed a lot of the furniture. We removed a lot of teacher clutter, so all of those piles of things that were building up in the corners of classrooms all went, and we introduced a neuroscientific way of learning. So we really looked carefully about how children in the early years learn best. Then in June 2013, we started planning to open up our own FS1 unit. Up to this point, we didn't have an FS1, we just had an FS2. So we started researching what that might look like. We visited some schools in the UK to observe best practice. We went to see Jeanette Basson teaching in the UK in one of her schools. I was very much involved with the architects in terms of designing from scratch a learning environment that we knew would suit the needs of the children. And in September 2014, our FS1 unit finally opened. We also had the opportunity of remodelling again. After the initial remodelling in 2012, we remodelled again our FS2 unit. And there's some photos coming up later about what those units look like. And what it's led to is our FS unit at DES being a really, really fun place to be. And I think this photo, again, this is one of my favourite photos, sums up what our FS unit at DES is like. When we were looking at our curriculum and we were thinking about how we could create a curriculum that was irresistible to the children, a curriculum that the children would enjoy, one of the first questions that we considered was actually what excites us as teachers. I think it's quite hard when you're delivering something and when you're playing with the children and when you're trying to kind of get the excitement going. If you're not excited about it yourself, that's really hard, isn't it? So what we looked at when we were remodelling our curriculum was these three elements. We did a lot of talking as a team of teachers and teaching assistants about what excites us. We realised that the themes that we were covering didn't excite us, and actually weren't really that exciting to the children and weren't really that relevant to children in Dubai. A lot of the themes we were doing were traditional themes from the UK. So we ditched them. All of those themes went in the bin. We then all started thinking about when we were new to teaching and how exciting it was and what those things were that really got us going as teachers. We then started thinking about what would excite the children. Okay, and then we started thinking about what is actually meaningful to children living in Dubai. Not trying to do a lot of things that maybe you would teach traditionally in the UK that might not apply to children in Dubai. And what we created and what we've developed over the last few years is a curriculum that's exciting, it's fun, and it's engaging. And it's exciting for everybody. It's exciting for the children, it's exciting for the adults, it's exciting for visitors walking in. We have a lot of parent tours, and I know that whenever they walk through FS, they can feel the excitement too. Has anybody got any questions about that? So these are our exciting themes that we've developed over the last few years. They're not set in stone. We review them at the end of every theme. We think about whether it's worked well. We think about how we could adapt it next time. We look at different cohorts of children. So each year we might review the cohort of children that we've got and think about what might excite them. So in FS1, if I just run through them quickly, they love superheroes, don't they? 3 and 4-year-olds. So we wanted to have a really exciting one at the beginning of the year. So we have superheroes, celebrations, little explorers, dinosaurs, pirates, and Twist My Tales is looking at fairy tales, but looking at the ones that have got a bit of a twist to them. And then in FS2, wild things, the world around us, let's get physical, splish, splash, slosh, turrets and tiaras, and space. So we've got rid of the all about me and the people who help us. Those things come up through these themes actually, and we've just tried to, like I say, think about themes that are really exciting. When we were looking at how we could create an exciting curriculum, a big part of it was also thinking about our learning environment. And I know, again, when visitors come to DES and they come and see our FS environment, some people are quite shocked because it is very, very open plan. You'll see from those pictures there, there are no doors. So this area here, this is actually a classroom area here. All of these classroom areas are totally open plan. So you can't go in your classroom and close the door. Okay? In our FS2 unit, we have 5 open plan classrooms, and we also have a big, this area here with the black floor is our shared area. Okay, and that's kind of in the middle with the open plan classrooms around it. We also have very little furniture. We have the furniture that we know we need. So if there's things going on in our classrooms that we're not using, they go. Okay. The furniture is all about the children, so we got rid of all of the teachers' desks and all of the things that are there really for the teachers, and it's very much a child-centred place to learn. We wanted to, when we created our environment, we wanted to create space for movement. A lot of our curriculum is about getting the children up and moving as much as we can. So we've tried to create big open spaces where they've got that freedom for moving around. It's flexible, so normally teachers are moving their furniture on a daily basis depending on what they're doing. There might be some days, I know in my classroom, there's some days where I don't have any furniture at all. I take it all out, depending on what I'm doing, if I want to do a big role play activity. Our shared areas allow for free flow collaborative play. So there's times during the day where the children from all of the classes can go and free flow play together. And it's a bright and colourful and fun place to be. In the classroom areas, yeah. The way our timetable works, if I just talk a little bit about the timetable, when it's quiet, all of the classes are quiet. So at the beginning of the day, we have our whole class intensive phonics session, and that's done in our classroom areas. Okay, and all of the classes are doing phonics at the same time. When we're having our planning time, which is when the teachers are talking about all of the play activities for the day, and then the children have to talk about what they want to do and plan what they want to do, all of the classes are doing that at the same time, so it's quiet. Okay. When the children are having their playtime, we call it do time at DES. When they're having their do time, all of the classes are having do time. And that's how it works in that open plan environment.
Do time means they're going to go to that shared area and do activities.
Do time.
So they come to the activity area, that shared area.
In due time, they can stay in their classroom area, which would be an area like that, or they can go into a shared area, or they can go outside. We have sliding doors that we open up so they can free flow in and out. Yeah. All of the classrooms are open plan. All of the classrooms are roughly the same size. They all have roughly the same furniture in them, but how the teacher in that classroom positions things and uses the furniture is up to them. 25. In FS2, 25, and in FS1, 22. Yeah. Our FS1 unit is also open plan. So we have 4 classroom areas that kind of go along a long space with a shared area that then leads out into an outdoor area.
So due time the students use whatever they want.
Yeah. Yeah. So in due time, if you think about those themes that I talked about a little while ago, what we do is each week we have a storybook, and that leads the activities for the week. So this week, for example, in FS2 we're doing Bog Baby. Okay, so that storybook will be introduced at the beginning of the week. All of the play activities that are happening in all of these areas come from that storybook. Okay, and that's kind of our stimulus that keeps us going through the week. Some of the activities are changed daily. Some of them stay out for the whole week. Some of them we might plan to change, but then we see actually the children are really engaging with it, and we think about how we can take it forward in a different way. We talk at the end of each day about what the children have been doing, how we can take their learning forward in the areas the next day.
How long is the due time?
How long? We have 3 due times every day. They're all between 45 minutes to an hour long. 45 minutes to 1 hour, each due time. Yeah. Yeah. So we call them whole class intensives. We'll have a whole class phonics every day, a whole class maths every day. That's when we're really teaching the children skills and teaching the children the knowledge. So we're teaching them the letter sounds, we're teaching them how to form them correctly. Due time gives the children the opportunity to then practice using that knowledge and those skills in different contexts. This is when we really see how they're able to apply what they've learnt in different contexts and kind of cross over with their skills. It's okay.
So one day your focus is phonics, one day is math, one day is, for example, so your whole classes are...
No. We have a whole class phonics session every day that happens in the classrooms. The play-based activities that are out cover all 7 areas of learning. Okay.
You introduce one topic in one day. And if it is literacy, it's literacy in one day. You do numeracy in that day.
No, we do. Our timetable, if I just talk you through it quickly, we have phonics at the beginning of the day. So each of the class teachers is doing phonics. And that's very much we're teaching them the skills that they need session. We're giving them the knowledge. We then have thinking and planning. That's when the children are working in groups, again within their classrooms. One group with a teacher, one group with a TA, and we're talking about the activities that are on offer that day, and the children are planning what they're going to do. And we have a little microphone that goes around, and they have to talk about what it is they're going to do that day. We then start due time. I know most schools in Dubai have specialist lessons, don't they? So we then have specialist lessons in the middle of the day. At a later point of the day, we have a whole class maths where we all come back together again. But there's due times throughout the day as well.
I think the timetable is key to it, to have the layout the way it is, that this is talking about. The timetable's got to be able to match that, otherwise you wouldn't want a situation when 2 classes are on due time or 2 classes are trying to do the phonics, for example. And the way that it works really well for the children as well is that when you've got a situation when all the classes are doing the phonics, the intervention groups that you can put in, and you can take children from different classes to work if they need an extra bit of support. So we've got our learning support department, and for example, I take an enrichment group for maths. I can take the children from across classes. So it's much, it allows a lot of flexibility there to personalise the learning for the children as well when it's all being done at the same time.
But good time you have like several learning activities around that, not only in your class,
Yeah.
you can go outside.
Yep, so when it's due time, I've got activities set up in my classroom, there's activities set up in the indoor shared areas, and there's activities set up in the outdoor area. And the children can choose. Yes.
How many classes do you have in English?
5.
5 classes around.
5 classes of 25.
And how many teacher assistants?
We have 1 teacher and 1 teaching assistant per class. So there's 10 adults. Yeah. Yeah. About 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Mm.
But you find for about 1 hour and 20 minute sessions.
Yeah. Kind of interspersed throughout the day.
There's some in the class, some outside in the common area, and some outside.
We have the adults are kind of positioned around, so there's always an adult that stays in the classroom area, there's adults that will be in the shared areas inside, there's adults that will be outside. That's all very carefully planned to make sure that we've got adults where we need to have them. The teacher will have their area that they're going to work in for that day.
Also making some observations or
Yep.
records as they do.
Yeah, yeah.
That is one of the. You elaborate a little bit more about evening silence and children are given the microphone.
Yeah, yeah. The lady here has just asked me to elaborate a little bit on thinking and planning. So when we do the thinking and planning, we are basically, we're almost like market stall sellers, the adults, and we're kind of standing up and saying, well, everybody, remember yesterday we were doing this, we were doing that, well, guess what, today, this is what we're going to do. And the adults' main role in that session is to get the children excited about the activities that are going on for that day. It's also to get the children's ideas. Quite often in thinking and planning, a child will say, how about if we? And it's something that the teacher hasn't even thought about, so we might go off on a tangent. It's an opportunity to talk about the things that the children have done the day before that maybe you're continuing that day. So the teachers talk, but for a maximum of about 5 minutes. It's an opportunity for the children to be talking, really, not the teachers. We create the excitement. Quite often you'll see the teachers dressed up and being very animated around the classrooms. And then the children, we have a microphone. We have 2 groups, one with the teacher and one with the TA. And the microphone goes around the circle, and the children have to talk about what they want to do that day. So they might say something like, this morning, I am going to go to the water tray and I'm going to make a bog baby that floats. Full stop. After that, I am going to go and make a house for my bog baby in the recycling area with the junk materials. Full stop. Okay? And the microphone will go around. So what the children say in that session is entirely up to them. What they're choosing to do is entirely up to them. We're encouraging the children to be speaking correctly and to be using correct sentence structure so that when they start doing their writing, they're used to speaking in correctly formed sentences. We might also start talking about describing words and exciting vocabulary as well. Okay, and then once all the children have had a turn, they then go off and do their due time.
How do your teams get incorporated in this learning and learning? This is each of our certain themes for the term.
Themes.
So how do they get incorporated in this kind of learning?
So we have a theme that lasts for a half term, and then each week we have a storybook that fits in with that theme. Yeah, so we're currently doing Splish Splash Splosh in FS2, it's a bit tricky to say. So this week we're doing Bog Baby, next week we're doing Dougal's Deep Sea Diary, we're doing Commotion in the Ocean. There's about 5 different storybooks that we've chosen that all fit in with the theme that we think will provide a good stimulus and that will excite the children. And all of our play activities then follow on from those storybooks. Most classes tend to have 1 or 2 a day. Yeah.
You talked a bit about the assessments, having specific children that you focus on every day, the teacher assess all the other children as well in different areas throughout the day.
We very much work as a team. So when the children are having do time, we're not necessarily just focusing on children from our class. We're focusing on all of the children in the unit. We don't have, I know in a lot of settings, they have a key group of children that they will focus on for that week. We don't do that. What we try to do is just make sure that over the week, we've really spent some quality time with all of the children. We have tracking systems in place to make sure that we've observed all of the different areas of learning. We use Too Simple. I'm not sure if anybody's aware of that app.
Yeah.
Sorry? Yeah. We use Too Simple to record our observations electronically. And we have very good systems in place for doing that. And like I said, there's a lot of conversations. The nice thing about having the open plan approach is that it's very easy to have conversations with other members of the team. It's very easy to share good practice. You can quite easily see what somebody else is doing and think, oh, that's a good idea, I'm going to do that tomorrow. So it is a very good way, like I say, of sharing practice, having conversations about children. We're having those conversations on a daily basis. Does that answer your question? Okay, our outdoor learning environment, again, is very flexible. We've tried to create as much space as we can. A lot of the resources that we use outside are also the kinds of resources that we might use inside. And again, it's about it being an exciting place to be. Okay. Just want to talk a little bit about the theory behind the practice, really. A lot of what we do at DES is based on neuroscience and about what we know about how children learn best. Children are learning their body up until the age of 5. It takes them 5 years to learn that they've got hands and feet. And as an adult, it seems quite strange, that, doesn't it? The last thing they learn that they've got is fingers. And we're expecting children to come in age 4 and pick up a pencil and write. So a lot of what we do in our FS1 and our FS2 unit is about developing the brain, helping the children to understand all of the parts of their body and how they connect together. We all know that if we're excited about our learning, our brain is going to be fired up, we're more likely to be learning. We do a lot of work on trying to engage all areas of the brain. Children now are iPad children and screen children. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that we're engaging those areas of the brain that maybe aren't being engaged when they're in front of the screen. We do lots of things to fire up the brain, and we talk to the children about why we're doing this and the fact that we are firing up the brain. So, for example, at the beginning of phonics, our phonics is called Battyland. And at the beginning of phonics, we put on the Batman music, and all 125 children in FS2 run around FS2 being bats. It's a fun way to start phonics. It's a signal that we're starting phonics. But the theory behind the practice is if we get moving, if we're doing this, and if we're listening to music, actually our brain is ready to learn. We're firing up all of the parts of our brain. We do a lot of movement for learning. So there's a little clip on that video that showed you some children doing some canting. We use little pom-poms, or flipper-flap as we call them. So when the children are canting, they're doing this while they're canting, or they might be doing this, or when we get a bit advanced, they might be doing this. And again, it's fun, it makes canting more exciting, but the reason we're doing it is because when we're moving while we're learning, more areas of the brain are fired up, the children are more likely to remember it. We dance the letters, so as we're learning letters in phonics, we also dance them. Again, we get some music on, and we dance the letters using gross motor. Okay. A lot of focus on gross motor skills and a lot of focus on children learning their body and learning how the different parts of their body connect. We use a lot of music, because music has been shown to engage all areas of the brain. When you're listening to music, all of your brain is firing up. And we do lots of singing. Okay. Has anybody got any questions about that? Okay, so quality play-based learning. I've just got some pictures up here. Again, these are some of my favourite ones. If I just talk you through some of the activities that the children were doing here. This one here is just gorgeous. I hope you can see it properly at the back. We'd read The Snail and the Whale, and this little group of children had decided to do a role play, and they were making this little boy into a snail, just using a cardboard box that they'd found in the construction area, and that then developed into them doing a role play of him being a snail. It was gorgeous. These children here, we were trying to build an underwater castle, and when we're doing any kind of understanding of the world and we're looking at science-based skills, we dress up as scientists. So these children were dressing up as scientists, and that actually evolved into them having their own little meeting. And there was another little boy that isn't on here who chaired the meeting, got on a chair, got them all to sit in front of him so that they could sort out what it was they needed to do next, because it clearly wasn't working and this castle wouldn't sink, it just kept floating. This one here, this is when we were doing our Wild Things theme, and we had a boat that we brought into the unit, and the children were role-playing, creating their own stories. This one was part of outdoor learning, where we used the top of our sandbox to be a stage, and the children, I think they were doing the Gruffalo. The children were putting on their own little production of the Gruffalo. This one in the middle here, we have, as most early units do, lots of bikes in FS1 and FS2, and whilst they're really important for developing those gross motor skills, we like to see if there's other skills we can develop alongside that. So these children were engaged in a maths activity while they were riding on the bikes. And this one over here, at the very end, the children were going into space. They made their own rockets, and they made their own little launch pads and control stations, and they were going into space. All of those activities, apart from the bike one, were all activities that the children had initiated themselves and gone and got the resources for themselves. This is in due time, yeah. Creating the wow factor. So we want the children to come in the morning and say wow, or think wow, and want to be excited to be there. So we do lots of fun things. This one at the top here, as part of our dinosaurs theme, our dinosaur went missing. And rather than just doing the let's go and look for him around the school, we decided it'd be more fun if various members around the school emailed us photos of him. So he ended up everywhere, and then we did go looking for him, and it's good fun. This one here was a submarine area that we created, just using some of those foam boards and a bit of blue fabric that we hung from the ceiling. So the children actually came in the morning and that was there, and they were wow, but literally just created with a few foam boards. This one at the end here was just some of those emergency blankets over a couple of tables to create Q-Poodle's spaceship. This one, they were sailing. This was one of our dinosaur books. They created boats. They were sailing off to find the dinosaur. And this one, I love this one. We were doing bedtime stories in bed. And when they came in the morning, my teaching assistant was actually in bed, and they did think that she'd been there all night.
So this is created by you people, by the teachers. This is not done by you for the kids.
This one was created by the teachers. This one was created by the children, but they'd actually made this the day before. And rather than them making it and then it kind of ending up in a corner somewhere or in the recycling bin, we used it to then create something that would have the wow factor when they came in the morning. Sometimes the teachers at the end of the day get the children to help set up the classroom for the following day. So if the children have had any really good ideas and things they want to develop, in that very last time before the children go home, the teacher might be working with groups of children to get the classroom ready for what they're going to do the next day. And that works really well as well. Okay, so in terms of impact, it's all well and good doing these things, but it needs to have an impact, doesn't it? I've just put some statements up there from the DSIB inspection in 2014 and from the BSO inspection that we had last term in 2015, where it was recognised that our curriculum is inspirational. If I just pick out some other things, stimulating learning environment, children flourish. I'll just leave those up there if you want to have a look at them. Yeah. Okay, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you for all of your questions. I think everybody's already got an evaluation sheet to fill out. Thank you.